Welcome, listeners, to another episode of the Banquet Hall podcast. If this is your first time tuning into the podcast, make sure that you like, subscribe, follow at Banquet Hall Pod, all the different influencer things that I have to get rid of at the top of the episode. But lucky to be joined by another multi-hyphenated artist, a creative. Jamilah, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Hello, I am great. I'm feeling very blessed right now. Yeah.
Awesome. Blessed is a good feeling to have. We're recording this on a Sunday, self-care Sunday. We both got some self-care plans after the podcast is recording. It's also May the 4th, which is Star Wars Day. So if y'all are Star Wars fans listening to this podcast, may the Force be with you. But we have a good conversation ahead of us this morning, almost afternoon, so I can still say morning right now. But to get us started, I always start these podcasts with a random icebreaker question. So random that I never really prepare for the icebreaker question beforehand. But we were just talking about teas right before we started recording. So I guess my icebreaker question for you, Jamilah, and bringing it a little bit more general, what's your favorite beverage of all time? Like, just what's something that you always look forward to drinking every time you drink? It hits the spot. It could be an adult beverage, could be a non-alcoholic beverage. Just what beverage is always like chef's kiss for you?
I would say I really like Arnold Palmer's with ice.
Mm, That's mine too. So my answer. It's nothing like a good Arnold Palmer. I was actually just talking to my mom about this. I like trying different Arnold Palmer combinations too. Like in the fridge, I have this blueberry lavender tea and I threw some lemonade in that. So it's kind of like a blueberry lavender Arnold Palmer. But I just feel like that combination of like lemonade and tea is just
hmm
perfect.
Yeah.
There we go, chef's kiss. But Jamilah, the first real question of the podcast that I always start with, Jamilah, where are you from and how did that shape the person you have become and are in the process of becoming?
I'm from the heart of the Bay Area, so I'm from San Francisco. Um, yeah, I grew up in San Francisco Bay Area.
San Francisco Bay Area, a lot of NorCal pride. I used to actually do some work in the Bay Area, so pretty familiar with San Francisco, but I don't think I've been back to the Bay in at least 3 or 4 years, so I definitely need to get back there. And so getting into who you are, I mentioned you are a multifaceted, multi-hyphenated artist. How do you identify yourself as an artist or creative? Like, what are your different creative artistic endeavors?
I really like when I create, I like to be by myself. That's when most of my ideas are clear and stuff. And so um, I like to sing, I like to write, I like to rap, I like to write poetry, I like to cook. Most of my cooking started off like as intuitive. So I like to just see what works. And I also like to draw. Um, I like to sew. I'm into fashion. Um, yeah, anything that's like creative that involves like me having kind of like creative freedom, autonomy, like yeah.
What is it about being by yourself that sparks that creativity? Because I too like when I write, when I'm doing podcasts, like I like just being in my own comfortable environment. So what is it like? What is it about being by yourself that inspires that creativity for you?
I can just tap into my own sense of self and like without any like outside influences. It's just me. Like it's just me and the creator and just I can just think clearly and yeah.
And so you mentioned quite a few things that you do. You cook, you write. I think I heard rap in there, designing fashion. Um, how do you keep track of all of that? Like all these different endeavors. Like I feel like even just being a writer and a podcaster, I feel like I never can find time to do it. So how does that balance work with all the different things you're interested in?
So I in the beginning I kind of just started off having hobbies and then from there I kind of focused more on a specific hobby and then just kind of made sure like I was able to like complete this before I move on to the next task, or like just making sure that I'm like finishing tasks before trying to jump and start new tasks, but like also still like being open to all my different hobbies. Yeah,
Oh.
I'm still working on the time management for these different hobbies because it is a little bit like tug and pull. Like, okay, well, which am I gonna focus on?
Mhm.
Um, so yeah.
Yeah, I think that time management is kind of like the Achilles heel for a lot of artists, where there's a lot of things that we're interested in, a lot of things that we want to do, and just finding enough time in the day in the midst of quote unquote day jobs, in the midst of maintaining relationships with people, definitely gets difficult at times. But I'm happy to hear that you're able to at least prioritize when you can and figure out that balance. So want to pick a few of the things that you're involved in and see if you could share a little bit with our listeners about some of the stories behind them. One in particular, you have Celestial Soul Food, which I know you have your page for that. You're a published author. What is the story behind starting Celestial Soul Food? What was the inspiration? What made you think of it? The name of it? Give us a little bit of the behind the scenes of CSF.
Okay, so Celestial Soul Food, it came about. I am very like I would say spiritual in a way, and I felt like my health and my spirituality were intertwined. So Celestial Soul Food isn't just about edible food that you eat. Like it's like food, spiritual food as well. Um, I believe the name was inspired by just my faith. Um, and Celestial Soul Food began when I started eating plant based. I started eating plant based and I started to cook more. So once I started like getting in the kitchen more, I decided to like, you know, document what I was doing.
Mhm.
And from there, it just became like something that became a part of my life. Then I just made it more solidified and I created like a social media. I
Mhm.
created a YouTube and Instagram, and that's the beginning of Celestial Soul Food, which was 2021. Yeah.
2021. So how does it feel now being 4 years removed from starting it? Like, what does that growth look like within Celestial Soul Food? What growth have you seen in yourself and the cooking skills? What makes you proudest when you think back on the 4 years that it's been in existence so far?
Honestly, I feel like I birthed something. Like
Mm.
I feel like I planted something and I'm just continuously like pruning it, nurturing it, and like this it's like more than a brand to me. Like this is something that is very, very like um important to me. And I want to continue to pour into it as well as like other endeavors as well. But this is
Mm.
something that I want to pour into and that I want to grow and to become like more mainstream, more global. I want to reach more people because the message and the mission, I believe, is important. Like health and wellness, especially within the Black community, there should be more emphasis on health and wellness. We need more representation, and yeah.
And I think that representation piece is so important because I think I've talked about this with a couple of people on the podcast before, but when we think about health and wellness, when we think about yoga, plant-based, all these things, a lot of times white people and white women specifically are at the center of it, and we don't see a lot of representation of Black folks, Black women, et cetera, et cetera. And I think when you don't see yourself represented in it, it's harder to adopt some of these practices, adopt some of these ways of being more holistically healthy. Because I know just thinking of people I've interacted with in family and in close friend circles, sometimes people are like, oh, I don't want none of that fake stuff, or I need the real me. And people don't really have like that knowledge of why it is important. And so when you talk about plant-based recipes and eating healthy and some of the recipes in your cookbook or in your book, why is it important or why are plant-based diets important? What are the benefits of that?
I believe plant-based is beneficial because plants are medicinal. Well, some plants are medicinal,
Mm,
and you can get like the nutrients that you need uh, directly from the plant. And I just find that to be beautiful because it's like you can eat like your vitamins, you can eat your minerals, you can eat what you need to make you well. And I've learned that through experience. And also, I believe plant based, it just makes you more vibrant. It increases your energy. It can help with your skin. It can make your skin clear. Like it helps with discipline too. So like maybe you just want to do like meatless Monday or something. Like you don't have to completely be plant-based and just go cold turkey. It's like something that you can work towards or just experiment with. It's accessible to anybody. Anybody can eat plant-based. You don't have to have any labels. You don't have to say, I'm vegan, I'm vegetarian, I'm plant-based. It's something that's available to everyone. And I believe that it'll help you reach your health goals by just being open to plant-based foods and diets. Um, and it will benefit you even if you aren't fully vegan or plant-based. Just being open to it is gonna help benefit your health. And also just reminding yourself that like growth and elevation to a better lifestyle, it takes time. So it's not instantaneous like overnight. So don't think or expect like to have results overnight or to be like super healthy and like, oh, I'm just so green overnight. Like that's
mm.
not what anybody's expecting. Um, even though society around us is like instantaneous, everything, boom, boom, boom. So
Hmm.
as you heard, like celestial soul food began like 4 years ago, and so like things just take time, and you just gracefully just continue to move forward because the time is going to pass anyway. So yeah.
The time is going to pass anyway. And I think that's so helpful for people to hear, especially people that might be thinking about changing their diet up or doing more plant-based or taking dairy or red meat out of their diets, because I think where people don't find success the most is when they say, all right, beginning tomorrow, no more meat. I'm only eating vegetarian meals. And then you're giving your body this rough transition to where it's really hard mentally, it's really hard physically, it's really hard spiritually to fully make that transition. But I think the more and more we educate our communities through conversation, through sharing knowledge, through sharing resources, it will lead to just people feeling more comfortable making those small choices, like you said, whether it's a meatless Mondays or I'm only eating fish on Fridays, or I'm going to just switch out dairy milk today and I'm only going to do non-dairy milk moving forward. And I think that's very helpful. And also, I think when you mentioned it being good for your skin too, like your skin always looks flawless every time I see you. And I think the light on the
Thank
camera,
you.
so when people see you on the camera, if you watch it on YouTube or Spotify, if there's no better plug to plant-based, like you got to have your skin looking like Jamilah's, because I'm trying to get onto Jamilah's level.
Thank you.
Course. What about a sneak peek into Celestial Soul Food, the book? If someone is listening to this podcast and they're thinking about trying out your book, trying to try some plant-based recipes, what's a recipe or something in the book you could share or give a little tidbit of? Not too much because I want people to actually buy the book and support you, but what's something that they can look forward to if they do support you through Celestial Soul Food?
Okay, so Celestial Soul Food is more than a recipe book. It's a nutritional guide as well. So upon reading this book, you will also be informed about nutrition and how you can achieve your goals and like foods that are good for vitamins, minerals, like where to find those foods, stores, like where to find those. So I talk about fasting. I talk about herbs that are very helpful. Like I mentioned in the beginning, red raspberry leaf is very good for women's reproductive health. Um, and one recipe I would like for people to try is there's so many good things like on here. There's like over 60 recipes, so
Oh,
you have
wow.
a plethora of recipes to choose from. I would probably say the fried oyster mushrooms because
Um,
most Black people, well, this is for everyone,
yeah.
everyone from all ends of the earth or well, global, like celestial soul food. But fried chicken, a lot of people like fried chicken. So the fried oyster mushrooms is like a mock version of that fried chicken. And it's good. It has a good texture. And the way that I made mine was in the air fryer, but
Mm.
you can make it and you can make it in a go it's over the skillet or whatever on the stove. But that's a good recipe. I really like it. And I have sauces as well in my ebook as well that you can make.
Cool. I love a good sauce. Once we're done with the call, I'm gonna have to check it out because I'm trying to get back into the kitchen and try some new recipes and stuff. And you can always use a good extra sauce to put on something or include in something. So if people are listening to this podcast and they want to find Celestial Soul Food, what are some ways they can find it? How can they support? How can they engage?
So celestial soul food is able to be found on Instagram at celestial soul food underscore. And then as well as YouTube, you can just search celestial soul food on there. And for the book, it's available on Instagram on my page at celestial soul food underscore, or you can look it up on Lulu Publishing and just type in celestial soul food by Jamilah and it will pop up.
And I'm on it right now, and it's only $20, so y'all can't afford not to invest twenty
Yeah, it's
dollars into
19.99.
19.99 to be specific. So not even $20. And it's a small investment that makes such a big impact on your health. I mean, I'm already on the website. I might as well add to cart right now. And it's funny you mentioned Lulu because a lot of people ask me how I do my poetry books, and I use Lulu as well. So if any of y'all are
Okay.
also looking at getting your own book out there, lulu.com is a free resource that you can use if you have your own book that you're trying to write. But I want everybody listening to this episode right now, if you hear the sound of my voice, head on over to Celestial Soul Food, go on to the link in the bio, get you a copy of the ebook, and share a recipe. If you create something from the book, tag Jamilah in it, let her know like that her recipes are fire, any nutritional facts that you get. Just because I think this is exactly, you asked me before we started recording about some of the inspiration behind the podcast. These are the exact stories that really inspired wanting to do a podcast like this, just because you're someone who has very much a lot of intention in the work that you're doing. You want to make a change in the community and the world that we have, and the fact that people can have a platform to where they can hear your story, hear what you're passionate about, because I think it's a lot easier to want to purchase from somebody when you hear the why behind what they're doing, not just that you're not just looking to get money from this. Like obviously every artist needs support, but it's a lot bigger than just trying to make a profit. You're trying to like make a change, and I think that's so important. So we have the cook or nutritional guide, Celestial Soul Food. Let's talk a little bit about another aspect of health. I noticed in your Instagram bio you have that you're a yogi in the bio, and I have a special place in my heart for all yogis. I have a lot of close friends who practice yoga. So how did you get started with yoga yourself?
I I started doing yoga as a way to spiritually like reset myself. And I was just open-minded and I just started doing it and I liked it. And so I just continued to do it and I wanted to become a yoga instructor. That was always something on my like goals list. And so I found out about an opportunity to become a trauma informed yoga instructor. And I just went for it and I did that certification and it was a very eye-opening experience, to say the least. And just like learning in depth about yoga's origins, the practice, the benefits, it was like, wow, this is more than just like, oh, I'm just trying to do like, you know, downward dog or something. Like, no, it's more than that. Like this, it's a lifestyle. It's not a religion. Just putting out that out there for any misconceptions, because I know there are a lot of misconceptions about that. Um, but for me, yes, yoga is a way that I like regulate myself and it's spiritual and it's a way for me to pour into myself like and I can get out of my head and I can get in my body and I'm just like in the moment like this is my time right now. Like nothing else matters right now. Like namaste, whatever Kendrick said, namaste your ass over there. This is my time right now. Like that's how I feel when I get my mat. It's just like I just roll it out and I'm like
Mm.
this is my time right now. So yeah. Even if I just lay on the mat and do shavasana, like this is my time right now.
You said Shavasana. What's that?
When you just lay, it's also referred to as a corpse pose, where you just lay straight like a
Mm.
corpse.
Gotcha. I think that's also like cool to just hear you explain it that way. I think that was a great explanation of just what yoga can do for you and the value of yoga. Because I do think that so many people just think yoga is doing downward facing dog. And I think when a lot of people think that they can't do yoga or they don't like yoga, they're so caught up in like, oh, I don't know if I can bend my body like that or I can't hold the pose like that. But I think what you mentioned about grounding yourself, getting out of your head and into your body. When it was phrased like that to me, it made it so much more helpful for me to do because then I wasn't so focused on like, oh, I don't know if I look right or this feels awkward. But it's more like, okay, where is my body at? Where's my mind at? How am I feeling? And just really being present, breathing also being a big aspect of it. Do you have a favorite yoga position?
Um, One of my favorite yoga positions probably would be the spinal twist, supine twist,
What makes that your favorite?
because I feel like it feels like a massage on my spine. And like we carry a lot throughout the day, and like your spine is like holding you up. So it feels good on my spine.
Hmm. I just have to look it up because I never heard to it referred to as a supine spinal twist. But this is actually one that I like too, and it's funny because I came across this, and this is going to age me a little bit. But when Nintendo Wii had the Wii Fit, this is one of the yoga poses that you could do on Wii Fit. And the moment I like actually like did the twist part, I was like, wow, like my spine, like it just feels great. Like whenever I know that my back's in pain or I haven't done a lot of stretching, like doing that spinal twist is top notch. I'm noticing you have a lot of we have the same favorite beverage so far, same favorite yoga position so far. So I think that's a very kindred spirit there. Um, I want to backtrack a little bit though, because you mentioned, I think the phrase you used was trauma informed. As a yoga practitioner, what does it mean to be trauma informed?
So, trauma informed means that you are trained to work with specialty populations. So, people who have a background that it may be um, from an underserved environment, it may involve social justice, it may involve like it's just it can vary like, and you're trained to work with these specialty populations, like you use the right language, you know how to offer modifications, things like that. And trauma is like a overwhelming of the nervous system. So yeah, that's what that is.
Definitely appreciate that explanation. And I think that as we talk about the different facets of who you are as a person, as an artist and a creative, I think that there's a genuine love for people holistically that's kind of embedded in all the things that you do. Because you mentioned wanting to spread knowledge on health and wellness, and specifically being trained to focus on people of marginalized populations. And I think that's very powerful and impactful. And that leads me to the next part that I want to discuss is your writing and more of you putting yourself out there through words. So you mentioned writing, poetry, music, rap. I know on one of your Instagram pages, I see that you do a lot of dancing as well. When it comes to some of the art that's more forward facing with people, uh, what inspires you to write? What inspires you to rap? What inspires you to write poetry?
I've always been expressive as far as I can remember. Like all the stuff that I mentioned that I enjoy doing, poetry, writing, cooking, music, dance, like this is what I've always done. Like I've always been expressive in different ways and different avenues. So yeah, that's like it's always just been something a part of me. But for me, the you were asking me about my like you music and dancing, or what was the question again?
Yeah, music, dancing, poetry, just some of those other aspects of who you are as a creative. But specifically, I guess more so the writing portion. So when you think of writing poetry or doing music, like where do you get that inspiration from? And it sounds like it's something that's been a part of your life for so long. So I guess a better question would ask is when you're in that headspace to write or to perform poetry, what is it that you're looking within or looking to put out into words?
Okay, so I actually have like this motto that I created. So it's like create to express, not impress. And like
Mm.
for me, um, when I write, I'm basically like dumping everything, getting out of my head, similar to yoga, and getting yeah out of my head and using that, muting whatever I'm feeling or whatever, and putting it into another form. Like so, whether it be dance, whether it be writing, well, we were talking about writing. So like I journal like a lot, a lot, a lot. Always have like because I've been in therapy. Like I'm not ashamed. I've been
Shouldn't
in
be either.
therapy since like I was like young. So like that's just a coping technique that I have, like journaling, writing, and I've always wrote. And like if I'm feeling creative or I want to like write and add some music to it, like that, I'll do that. Or I might write like a short story, or um, it's whatever like in the moment that I feel. If I'm upset about something, I'll write about it. Um, if I had a good day, I'll write about like it doesn't matter what it is. I'll just make sure that I transmute whatever I'm feeling and onto paper or typing and to get it out.
I love that. And I love I think you said motto of right to express, not to impress. Because I feel like, excuse me, when I'm writing, sometimes in my head I get caught up with like, oh, does it sound right, or is this quote unquote good? But the poems that I feel like are my best poems, or the poems I feel most proud about, are those where it's like you said, it's just I have all this going on in my head and I was able to express it in some way. And I think that's the beauty of spaces like Black Expression at open mics, where you see people just naturally expressing themselves and just letting you know what's going on in our heads. Because sometimes life can be a very individual experience, but the more that we can share with each other, the more that we can express ourselves and show that unique flavor expression. I think that's so powerful and so important. And I think anybody who knows you, who engages with you on social media, I think that's very evident in just how you put yourself out there. Like when I was preparing for the podcast, I was going through some of your social media posts, and I saw a lot of joy. I think joy is the word that I want to use, with just like your dance, your fashion, the celestial soul food. It seemed like you're very just proud of the work that you're able to do to express yourself. So whatever you're doing, it is working, and I'm happy that we'll be able to get your story out to more people and hopefully just reach more souls in that way. Which leads to kind of my final question of this section before we transition to the tail end of the podcast. You had reached out, or I put a post up on the Banquet Hall social media asking for people who might be interested to be on the podcast or recommendations for being on the pod. What made you want to be on the podcast?
I actually have a similar answer to you. I listen to podcasts um, here and there, and sometimes I like what I hear. Sometimes the conversations are kind of like broken records. So I'm like, well, hey, I have something to offer to share. Like, why shouldn't I go out and share what I have to offer? So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's awesome. Fitting right to the theme of the episode of the podcast. And now that we're just over halfway through the pod with a few questions to go, how do you feel right now? This one, I know when we first started, you said you had some nerves, but using that to kind of motivate the conversation. How are you feeling now that you know that you've begun to share more of your story and hopefully reach a larger audience of people? How does it feel so far?
At this moment, I don't really feel nerves. I'm just kind of enjoying the conversation. So yeah, the conversation is very like we're like similar, like on the same, frequency, and it's stimulating conversation. So the nerves have been gone. It's just like, okay,
Uh,
it's getting juicy now. So it's like, okay, I'm into it. So
uh,
that's how I feel.
That makes me feel good. That means the podcast is working. I think that's just where I always start. I mentioned to you, but for the listeners, I always start the podcast by just sharing about like why I wanted to do the podcast, how the conversation should go, how it should feel, just because I feel like you mentioned, there's a lot of podcasts out there that are broken records, or the conversation may not be as stimulating, and it could be for a variety of reasons. Some podcasts exist just to entertain, but I think that there's so much power in storytelling. There's so much power in conversation that I never want guests to feel like there's like a hidden agenda or hidden motivation to the podcast. It's like, hey, we just chopping it up. Some podcasts go completely off the rails and we're talking about whatever under the sun. But my goal is really to create those, once again, to your motto of create to express, not impress. I'm not trying to create something that's going to go viral. If it goes viral, fantastic. But the goal is to just have a conversation with people that I've interacted with, and bring those stories to other people, just because I feel like those one off interactions you have with people, because Black expression happened once a week at its prime. Sometimes it was once every other week. So these are people, a lot of people who have been on the podcast who are from Black expression, people I see maybe 20 times a year sometimes, but those little interactions can birth so many different stories, so many different experiences. And I don't remember if you remember this, but I think probably one of the last times that I saw you at Black Expression, I think you had either just got back from a trip or I was walking into your car and you were telling me about a trip that you went on. And I wanted to talk a little bit about traveling before it gets to the end of the podcast too. So I forget where exactly when, but it was somewhere in Africa, right?
I remember that. Yes, I had came back from Ghana.
Yes,
And
Ghana. What was the experience like going to Ghana?
that was one of the most, I would say, rewarding experiences that I've felt in a while.
What made it
Because,
rewarding?
well, I've always had that on my bucket list to travel to Africa just to set foot, like just to say I set foot on the motherland.
Yeah.
Like, so for me to even follow through into like, and there were some like bumps in the road, and I thought that I wasn't gonna be able to go, but that wasn't in the plan. Like, God was like, no, you're going. So I got there, and like I instantly felt like welcomed. Like it was very tropical. Like the weather's warm, and like you just see like a lot of like green, and the food was amazing. Like it was really good. Yeah, it was a lot of stuff. Like so many things to get into. Like they had dance workshops, they had music drumming workshops, and we went to like different cities and just toured with the locals. It was really cool. Yeah.
Sounds amazing. I feel like I too have it on my bucket list to visit some of the countries in Africa, and I just feel like I'm gonna get off the plane and just feel emotional right away, like just like thinking about the greater context, the history. Because I know one of my friends, she visited one of the beaches or one of the coastal parts of Africa, and she just started crying just thinking about like our ancestors and what they went through, and just being in the motherland. So. I'm always happy when I see Black folks being able to travel to Africa. I highly recommend. Obviously, I haven't done it yet, but I recommend anybody if you have the means, you got to make it happen. Just to be in touch with our roots, our history, and yeah, just I don't know. It's such a very spiritual experience. I feel.
Yeah. I would also encourage people to travel solo. Like, don't wait for people. Make make the initiative. Just go. Like, meet people as you go.
Mm. Why is that important, though? I know a lot of people are scared to travel solo. Why do you think that's so important?
I just feel like you have to take risks sometimes. Like, you can be the person who sits and watches, or you could be the person who initiates something. And, you can sit back or you can do something. Like, you can sit back and complain, or you can do something and see change. Like, it's up to you. So it's like, I got tired of waiting for people. I got tired of people making excuses and saying, like, oh, I don't have money. I can't take off. And so I just got up and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go and I'm going to take a risk. And whatever happens, happens. I'm going to just pray about it. Yeah.
That's a beautiful way to live. Just because, yeah, I think we get so caught up in like fear and anxiety, which exists for a reason, obviously. But yeah, some of these life experiences, you just have to get up and do it. You have to do the weird things. You have to do the fun things, things that you have a gut inclination to want to do. Because life is as long as it is short, and there's just so much out there for us to see. So I'm happy that you take it upon yourself to have these experiences, to travel, to get out there, and definitely echo what you said for our listeners. If you can make it happen, make it happen. Travel by yourself and just have those experiences because no one knows you but you, and you know what you want.
Yes.
All right, so let's get into the tail end of the podcast. So I have a series of, I always say rapid fire questions, but they don't have to be that rapid. Just some random subset of questions to give guests, or excuse me, give listeners an idea of who you are. Obviously, we have limited time within a podcast for people to know everything about you. But I think it's important just to give a more well-rounded scope of who you are as a person, and hopefully people are more motivated to support you on your journey, engage with the things that you engage with. So let's start with outside of what we've discussed so far, what else do people need to know about you to get a complete picture of who Jamilah is? Obviously, you're a much well-rounded person. There's a lot of facets to who you are, but what are some of those important things that you think people should know if they're listening to this episode?
I would say I really like something that like of just random.
It can be random. It can be something that is very important to you. Some people just say like, "Oh, I like dogs. I like hamburgers," but some people give like a very holistic answer about things that they've done, things that they do, like things that are at the center of you. Just something that you feel like you haven't necessarily discussed on the podcast yet, but you think is important for people to know.
Um, I really like recently I really started like just paying more attention to uh just like black women, and like I just feel like black women are like so magical. I don't know. It's like it's just so interesting. Like we can really just be who we want to be. Like I was looking at some hair videos the other day and I'm like, wow, like a black woman can do like so many things with her hair, and like depending on her hair, she can feel different. Like, and it's just the energy, and it's like it just hit me like, wow, like we have so much about us that makes us magical. It's just like, yeah, I don't know. That was like, I don't know if that was answered the question, but that just was on my mind. Like,
Hey, I think
but
that.
now I want to study like, uh, just like about the origins of like beauty and like black women, and not just like, yes, Africa, but even just black Americans too. Like black Americans, like how we our relationship and origins with our beauty, and how we express our beauty and stuff in like hair, through hair, and just like different stuff. Like I think I want to go to a hair show now. Like I don't know. I'm like
They have hair shows? I've never heard of a hair show.
I actually saw one. Like it was an event. I didn't go to it, but I saw a flyer. So it was a black hair show, but I missed it.
Hey, well, hopefully it comes back around, or maybe that's something you're able to put on in the future too, through all the things that you do, like set up your own like black hair show. But I think that answers the question in my book, just in terms of it's something that's at the core of who you are. I mean, obviously you are a black woman, but also that love for black women and black girl magic exists for a reason. So there's always space on the Banquet Hall podcast to affirm black women. So I'm happy that was your answer to that question. Um, what about your legacy? So when you think back at, or when you think ahead to think back, when it's all said and done, what do you hope that people are saying about you? What do you hope that you've left behind as part of your legacy? What footprint do you want to hope that you leave on society?
My my faith has really inspired me. That's really what inspires me day to day. Like my faith. Without that, I don't know. I don't know. So I would say that my legacy would be um, to honor yourself, like honor your temple, and self-preservation is is obeying God, like taking care of yourself. Um, and I want people to prioritize themselves And I want that to be something that is instilled in them, that I'm a priority just as much as anybody else. And it's intertwined. Like, it's not one thing. It's physical, mental, spiritual. So taking care of how you like your body and stuff, taking care of your mental and faith, having faith, doing things, maybe yoga, like just making sure you're holistically pouring into yourself. I want that to be my legacy for people to remember. Is I am important. I need to make sure I take care of myself, honor myself.
Honor yourself. I think that's so important. Let's see, where else do we need to go? How about words of advice? So let's go to advice corner. What words of advice do you have for someone who might be exploring a number of different creative passions and trying to figure out like how they can express themselves authentically and holistically? What words of advice would you give someone like that?
Something funny. I would say just do it like Nike. Not trying to steal their slogan, but
It's a
I'm a
good
Nike.
slogan.
I'm a Nike person. I like Nike. Like, I always have like the sweaters, the shoes, the slides. But yeah, Nike. I really like that because that's really, if you just really, it all boils down to it is to act on something, to just go for it. Like, and I found that that's how I get things done. That's how I get to where I am, is just to act on it, even when I'm nervous, even when I'm unsure, even if I'm afraid. You just have to act on it and just see what the outcome is and have an optimistic mentality and have faith.
Yeah, I feel like Nike has the best slogan just because it really is. It's that simple. It's not that simple, but it's also that simple. Like sometimes, like you said, whether it's traveling by yourself, whether it's putting together music, poetry, sometimes you just got to do it. So I'm also a Nike person. Shout out to Nike for that wonderful slogan. Actually, more importantly, shout out to whatever creative slash marketing person came up with that slogan for Nike because that person is one of the biggest geniuses of all time. Um, Next up is recommendation corner. So I always like to close out the episode or towards the end of the episode with recommendations. So if someone's listening to this podcast, they like where your head is at, they like how you think about things. What are some recommendations? Or it could be one, it could be many, however many you want to choose, but recommendations for either books, podcasts, movies, music, anything that people might want to engage with that inspires you or is meaningful to you.
So I would say that some people who I have been influenced by are Queen Afua. She is a like herbalist woman. Dr. Sebi, he's a Honduran herbalist, specializes in like alkaline and knowing about plant medicine. And
Mhm.
Dr. Bobby Price, he's more of a recent influencer that I found out about. I like High Level Podcast. That's a good podcast. Um, and one song that I'm currently listening to is called I Am by Flo Milli. I like that song. It's like an affirmation song.
We love a good affirmation song. Where can people find you? We talked a little about this earlier, but just to reiterate it for people, where can people find you? How can people support the work that you're doing? Now's your time to shamelessly plug yourself, shout out, manifest anything you want, but most importantly, how people can rock with you.
I can be found on Instagram at celestial soul food underscore, and I can be found on YouTube at celestial soul food. And if you would like to purchase an ebook on plant-based recipes and nutrition, I can be found on Lulu Publishing at Celestial Soul Food by Jamilah. And you can support me by just resharing the content that you like, um, sharing it with your family, your community, people who you care about, who you want to be healthy and live long lives. Share that with them. And I am putting out and manifesting to build up a community of people who want to talk about health and wellness and to pour into the Black community and to talk about things that are important so that we can have a good quality of life just as much as anyone else.
Absolutely love that. And as you were talking, it made me want to connect you with a friend of mine who's been on the podcast a few times, but her name's Jada, and she has shameless plug for Black Beauty Near You. But she created this community of Black girls who go to predominantly white institutions. And through her work with Black Beauty Near You, she brings in different leaders, creatives, predominantly Black women, to engage with the Black women that are part of her cohort. So I definitely think that y'all are kindred spirits, and I think there's a space in what she's doing that you could impact a lot of young Black girls who might want to learn more about holistic health, might want to learn more about uh, plant-based diets and those recipes and nutritional information. So definitely want to connect y'all after this episode is over so y'all can keep doing the important work that y'all are doing. I also mentioned that I got the ebook. I got Lulu pulled up right here. I have to pull out my credit card after we done the podcast, but I'm gonna make sure I get my ebook. And eventually I'm gonna make something off of which you have and just use that guide to help improve my own health. So I definitely hope that our listeners are paying attention and are also going to engage as well. And that leads to the final question of the podcast, which is Lessons Learned Corner. We give the listeners great content, great conversations, and I always like to take it home or bring it home with wrapping it all up for them in a nice bow. So, two questions for you. After doing this podcast, after having this conversation today, what are you taking away, or what's something that you're taking away as a lesson learned from this episode? And then, secondly, what do you hope the listeners are taking away or learning from this episode?
Something I took away from this episode is that community is key because yes, like we can search things up, but like sometimes talking amongst one another, getting those conversations started and having that in our minds. And that way, when we interact with people in our everyday lives, we're sharing this information is important. Um, so that's something I took away just from our conversation today, our very stimulating conversation. I feel like you put some things in my mind that I'm going to take back with me after this podcast. And I'm sure I probably had some things that maybe stuck with you. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. And then what was the second question?
For the listeners, so when somebody finishes this episode, what do you hope they're taking with them as they close out the YouTube channel or they close out Spotify?
So for the listeners, I would say to prioritize your goals, live for yourself, make sure that you are honoring yourself, and also have faith. Um, and yes, health as well.
I love that as a takeaway. My own takeaway slash lesson learned for myself, I think it's multifaceted because, like you said, I feel like I'm reflecting and marinating on a lot of the things that you said and how you phrase a lot of the things that you said. And I think it all boils down to, for me, it's just like grounding yourself, like taking whatever's up here in your mind, taking into account what's going on with your body and just finding ways to embed all of that in the things that you do, expressing yourself, grounding yourself, and just leading with who you are naturally. Like you said, I'm really going to take home your model of express to, or create to express, not to impress. Like I think that is a good mantra that I just want to consistently remind myself of. And then for the listeners, and also this is also for myself, but for the listeners too, I think what I want them to really learn from this episode is that you can be as many things as you want to be. Going back to the just do it, going back to traveling solo. If you want to be a multi-hyphenated artist, the only thing stopping you is yourself. If you want to cook, if you want to dance, if you want to do fashion, you can do all of those things. And I think what's most important is just remembering that you want to create to express. So you don't have to be a billionaire fashion designer in order to be a fashion designer. You don't have to be a top selling artist to be a great artist. Like these are all things that you can do regardless of how many people see it, regardless of how many people view it. Obviously, you want to do the work to put yourself out there, but it's important to just do because it's what you naturally want to do. And Jamilah, I think that you're a great example of that. And I'm so blessed and honored to have had you on the Banquet Hall podcast. I really enjoyed our conversation. I think it really set the tone for the remainder of our self care Sunday. Like, I think I have just renewed energy, renewed spirit. To just go out and create for the rest of the day. So I definitely just want to thank you for your time. Want to thank the listeners for tuning into the Banquet Hall. As always, we gave y'all 5-star content, so y'all better leave that 5-star rating. Y'all gotta like, subscribe, share, and most importantly, engage with Celestial Soul Food. Check out the YouTube channel, check out the ebook, and something that's very important for me personally as an artist. Let the artists know that you're checking it out. Like tap in, comment on things, share, because I think a lot of times as artists, we don't always receive the flowers that we might from people who are engaging. So share some flowers with what you've learned. Jamilah, you've been so gracious with your time, with your presence, with your intentionality. I'll leave it to you. You can have the last words of the podcast. Anything you want to say to close us out, or you could just say bye to our listeners and we have a good time.
Um, I will say something. It's gonna be short. So, kind of piggybacking off what you said, like your art, like is not contingent upon like someone else's validation. Like at the end of the day, like you should have your own like groundedness within yourself, like that what you have is valid regardless, and like you should be content like with who you are regardless of who's clapping or not. Like know that you are what you think you are. Like if you feel like you're the best rapper, or you're the best chef, or you're the best podcast host, excuse me, then like that's facts. Like you just have to have that like main character like energy. Like it don't matter who's clapping or not. That's it.
I love that. Might be the title of the episode. It don't matter who's clapping or not, just do it. Um, so, from the best podcast host of the best podcast to the best multi hyphenated artist, you got too many titles for me to name all of them to close the episode. But you're the best at what you do. Jamilah, thank you for your time. Listeners, thank y'all, and we'll catch y'all next episode.
Bye bye.